I always like give it a number at the end and then like regret my number, but then I can't go back and change it because that would be
It's
that
forever
would be the
said
sign of
in
weakness.
video. What is up, everybody? I'm
Chat
Scott, aka
Nation.
Baby K, aka Internet's laziest music nerds. You know how we do. With another review, this time it is Philadelphia's own Pink Sweats with his album Pink Planet. He's actually received some praise. He's actually certified platinum on his single Honesty, which is actually on this album. I knew his vibe. I didn't really know anything about him, but I saw this album and I figured we could explore it together. So I guess without any further ado, you guys want to get into your initial thoughts, if you can remember past.
Absolutely, I would love to talk about my initial thoughts about this album. If I can remember them. I mean, it's not that complex for me. I listened to it the first time and I heard the first couple songs and I was like, okay, this is like pretty cool. I can I can get down with like it was like kind of like R&B, like the St. Paul and the Broken Bones kind of thing. I was like, all right, this is fun. I like this. And then it kind of from the beginning, I didn't like it so much. I thought it kind of went downhill after the beginning. And it pretty much stayed, in my opinion, for the rest of the 9 months we've been listening to this album.
I thought it had like a great start, similar to Evan, like the first two tracks, but I just kept listening and then I kept on checking my phone to seeing how many more songs were left on this album, and how many different times you could see him make the same song with different like the same structure. It's very like Daniel Caesar influenced, almost like carbon copy at times.
Yeah, I agree. This album was kind of samey from start to finish. Like you could tell, like 4 or 5 tracks in, the vibe was literally like the same thing. There was not really going to be any switch ups throughout. There's a bunch of different EPs, I believe, or a bunch of different singles that he had released and kind of like made them into an album, just threw them all together and then released it as an album. So
you might call that a compilation album.
Like just a product of him trying to produce the same sound over some EPs to have like some type of foothold in the pop R&B genre. But one thing Carlos said kind of actually leads me into the first question that I had, which was something Carlos says a lot, is that the person, the artist, wears their influences on their sleeve. And I was wondering if you guys thought the same thing with him, which stuff like Daniel Caesar, The Weeknd, artists like that, like Khalid.
Yeah, I also have John Mayer written down a couple spots.
Yeah.
I thought the first 2 songs sounded like St. Paul and the Broken Bones. When I did listen to it, it didn't really feel original. Especially, I mean, the first 2 songs, I liked them. They sounded like St. Paul and the Broken Bones. And then the rest of the songs just kind of sounded like every other like pop song. That it just wasn't really differentiable. And I listened to some of it with my parents, just one night, just by chance. And we had put on songs, and my parents would be like, "Oh, this song sounds like this other person, and this other person." And so like every song, they could pick out an artist that it sounded just like.
I don't see it as that like derivative directly of one artist, and I guess I just didn't. I don't see like, oh, this sounds like this artist. This sounds like. I think the soul sound and some of the backing tracks were actually some of the best parts, like the backing vocals.
It feels very like, I don't know, like formulaic and uninspired. There wasn't really much to it. The Pink Money, which I think is one of like the bigger ones from this, that's one that really stood out to me, although those aren't the ones that like chart the most. I feel like are the most like derivative.
Some of the like background vocals were some of my favorite parts of certain songs. Like I know So Sweet stuck out to me, like after it was like the 3rd time he repeated it in the chorus. Like he didn't sing it, the entire like background choir sang it. I took note of that one because it was just, I thought that was way more beautiful than anything in the rest of the song.
Yeah, I think the soul backing vocals were like the only thing that I feel like he kind of got right. A perfect song that exemplifies everything that he gets right and everything that he gets wrong about this record is Magic. Because one obvious point about this album, I'm sure you have a question about it, maybe I'm stepping over, but is that the writing is very kind of simple and bad. Kind of, it's not very creative pop writing. Magic is like a perfect example of that. He's like, every time we touch, it's like magic, just like whatever. But and the verse is very like mellow and not very exciting. I think a lot of the verses are not exciting. But when he brings it to the chorus at the end, when the freaking chorus comes in with the soul vocals, it's like actually very uplifting. Like even after listening to it a couple times, that part actually touches me a bit. Like I just wish he did that more. Like, because the song isn't that good because the verses are kind of just boring. Has some grasp of how he wants to make a pop track.
Did feel like an emotional connection there, and also on the interlude. which is funny enough because he's just like talking about
yeah,
like, a
that
world building that he can go escape it.
Yeah, he has a pretty voice. Like, even though like what he's saying is just like so boring, it's like
he does have a good like falsetto type singing voice.
His voice is much better than his words that he's saying, his writing. And that is something that I was gonna ask is like if someone were to even like ghostwrite for him, or if he's saying like a different song, would you have like the same opinion of it? Like if he's saying like a cover of something that you really liked, do you think you'd have a better opinion of him?
the cover is a good that's a good point, because even though you might think it's corny, I think in a first album, especially in someone who doesn't really have that much of a direction like him, it could be cool just to hear him sing like, oh, like this is a really good song. Obviously choosing a cool song to cover is, like that's editorial, like you're choosing, like you can pick something that fits like what your message is. So I think that could have actually been a cool thing he could add to this album. There's really no like great writing. So Sweet is pretty like clean. Like this is the building of the tracks like support maybe some of the weaker choruses.
I guess I kind of agree. I didn't think the writing was anything really like profound, or to me, I guess who's not really a pop listener, it's just like regular uninspired pop writing. Just didn't really like make a splash or make a wave. I have this written. On this album, the songs sound good but aren't good songs. He has a good voice. We know that, right? He can sing pretty well. The production, I would say, is pretty good. Like the mixes and instrumentation all sounds pretty nice on the songs, right? He knows for the most part like song structure. It's pretty straightforward in pop anyway. I mean, he can put together a song. There's not any special instrumental or style that he does that makes it a standout song. So he can make songs sound good but not make good songs, and I think maybe having someone else there to help would make a big difference.
Wait, let me look up the writer credits, because I actually don't know if he has ghostwriters. Actually, let's see.
For his sake, I hope he doesn't.
Wait,
Yeah.
Pink
Might need a new one.
Yeah, I think his rap kind of tracks were just really out of place, like Icy, Pink Money.
I thought like Chains was pretty boring too. It was like you got me, I'm a slave for you, got me wrapped.
Oh yeah,
in my
that shit
chains.
was just corny. It
And
wasn't.
that's just like
it
every
wasn't,
other single like love
raunchy.
song. I mean, like it's just,
Yeah.
And then Beautiful Life is just like kind of reminded me of Hell of a Life and how like dumb it is and how much I hate that song.
So what are you guys like thoughts on the interlude? I know Carlos talked about it a little bit. He said that kind of touched him near the section where he's talking about his building his pink planet or whatever.
Although I don't really think he did much to like build this sort of like pink planet. I guess you can connect the two colors, the color and the love, but whatever, that might just be a reach. And I did like this one. I thought it was beautiful, kind of how Victor said it was ASMR like.
Yeah, first I'd like to point out you're way overstepping with comparing Pink and Love. That's way out of line. Whenever you listen to a project, it's like, oh, they put so much work into it. Like, oh, this is his life's work, it's his dream. But then it's just like, I don't want to listen to it. So I kind of feel bad.
Last, I have two questions. They're kind of like, so what was your favorite song with Pink in the title?
oh, easy, Pink City.
Track?
Next.
Next.
Only two.
Wait, what was the second question?
Oh, sorry, my fault. Was the second question.
Oh, second question is which was did you rather the At Your Worst with the Kalani feature, or did you like the At Your
God.
Worst just solo?
So for
Yeah.
the Pink one, I liked Pink Family the best. It had like a corny rap feature, but I feel like he kind of struck a chord with like an uplifting, very standard message.
Oh yeah,
Money.
Pink Money. Pink Money was my favorite one. I felt like that one was like what the album should have been centered around. Although it was again like pretty influenced, I thought like the backup vocals were really good. The horns, I thought he had like a great range, and like a good guitar lead, and all those just added up to my favorite Pink song.
I just have to give a better explanation. My favorite was Pink City, the opening track. I thought it was a great St. Paul kind of thing, this like slow R&B. Thought the guitar solo in the later sections was like really nice. It was a little, kind of slow, emotional guitar solo.
For me, it was Pink Money as well, basically for the
Let's go.
same reasons as Carlos. But yeah, no, I thought it fit him the best out of any song on this album, like what my dream image of him would have been.
Right, and he just sounded like so confident on this one too.
Yeah, so I
It
figure it's
has
honesty.
200 million plus plays on Spotify.
Yeah, it's just like a boring song, man. It's
At
just-
my worst, had like
Yeah,
200
honesty
almost.
is the one. It's RIAA Platinum.
Hey, good for him though.
Bruh.
I'm not RIA Platinum, so what can I? Who am I to
He's
talk?
making bands, we're not. You know what I mean?
No remarks.
Yes.
Just numbers.
No remarks, just numbers. Okay, I'll go first.
Remarks, just water.
This is actually pretty
I-
long. We got a lot of material here.
I
Yeah, let's
feel like
keep it short.
throughout this review, I have been a little bit harsh on this album because it's easy to pick out the flaws when there are not a lot of like big bright moments. I felt like this album, while it fell short in a lot of aspects, and I said this before, I thought it like sounded good, right? I think there's a lot of potential. For the number, I'm gonna give it. And remember, I changed my thing, so 5 is neutral, and then like a 0 is terrible, and a 10 is perfect. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, out of 10.
If Carlos doesn't want to go, I guess I'll just diarrhea
I
of the
don't wanna
mouth
go.
right now.
I'm nervous.
I don't love the sound of a lot of the guitars, and I think that there was a couple times where even the backing vocals, which were my favorite part of the album, didn't stand out as much. The writing really, really drags down for me because that is the most important part to me. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
Like Evan said, it sounds like I don't know if I'd say well, but it sounds like professional. You can obviously tell this was made like at a studio with high recording quality. Uninspired, as I guess the word goes. For that reason, I'm going to give it a 4.4 out of 10.
Apparently, we're all the same person because we all have very similar opinions on this. On a track-to-track basis, if you sum of them all is worth less than their individual parts. Personally, I think there's some like good bangers in there, but overall, throughout, it's tough to suffer through all the ballads back to back. But with that being said, I'm going to give it a 4.8.
All
So I
right.
guess that's it. And for you guys that were waiting patiently for my fun fact is Mr. Sweats was born on Valentine's Day.
That's why
So
he's
he's an
pink.
Aquarius.
Bruh,
Oh,
it's crazy.
that's a fire birthday.
Yeah.
Bro, he should
I
collab with Lil
disagree. I actually
Uzi.
Uzi.
say that's like a lame birthday. I wouldn't want my birthday to be on a holiday because then it like, you have to do like both things. It sucks. I'd
Does
rather
he
have my
know
birthday
about
be on its own day.
shoegaze by any chance? My Bloody Valentine.
Oh yeah. He should collab with Lil Uzi Vert. That might be fire.
Might be. Yeah, once I hit the airwaves, it's a wrap.
Yeah,
For
no,
the
there's
culture.
no 808s in this.
Also, shout out Carlos's dad.
Oh,
Happy
true.
birthday
I'll
and
see
day
this
of
in like
love.
3 months. So
True, yeah. Shout out my dad.